שיר המעלות רבת צרונים מן אוריי יאמרנו ישראל רבת צרונים מן אוריי גם לא יכלו לי על גבי הרשו חורשים הריחו למעני טוב אדוני צדיק קיצץ צוות רשעים יבושו ויסוגו אחור כל שונאי ציון יהיו כחציר גגות שקדמת שלף יבש שלא מלך קוצר וחיצנו מאמר ולא אמרו עוברים ברכת אדוני עליכם ברכנו אתכם בשם אדוני
Hashem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on our Wednesday night, Shiur Torah, Stump the Rabbi, where after some Divrei Torah, you guys will ask some questions, and Bezrat Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. Tonight's Shiur, Rabotai Yekarim, is going to be for the Ilui Nishmat of my dear grandparents, Saba Gabriel ben Kamona and Safta Zora bat Chela. And also Leavdil for the Refuah Shlema for Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Ovadia ben Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Zora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to support the organization, continue to learn with us. And big yeshar koach again to all of those that are actually taking advantage of this opportunity to do Tikkun Abrit. Anyone that wants to do Tikkun Abrit, you can go to tikkunabrit.live, tikkunabrit.live, and over there you'll be able to do 1, 2, 10, 1,000 tikkunim, whatever you want to do. But most importantly, Rabotai Kareem, it's not just the donations, it's also the learning. So I highly recommend people go to our website, bezrathashem.org, and download this interactive PDF called The Guide to Tikkun Abrit. It's an interactive PDF that is in essence a house for all of our shurim in regards to that subject and much more. It has Jewish intimacy there for people that are married or about to get married. It has the issues of immorality. It has issues of tzniut. A lot of things are covered, and highly recommended for people to study it, to go through all of the shurim on a regular basis, just simply because it's going to help your life. We keep getting the same exact issues, the same exact questions year after year, and it's only from people that have not gone through this guide. Last but not least, also for those of you that have not yet gotten your car magnet to turn your car into a mitzvah mobile, I keep getting great messages from people that have gotten it, and literally it's simply changed their day-to-day life. Why? Because people now are doing mitzvot just by simply looking at your car or looking at whatever you have this put on, and you can get one of these or two of them. It comes in packs of 2. Or you can get 4 if you want, and if you have more than one car, by going to our Kiruv store, kiruvstore.org or kiruvstore.com, and over there you'll be able to get these magnets and of course the USBs and the books for free, Baruch Hashem. And I know I just said last but not least, but also those of you that have Talmidei Chachamim, Yeshivot, Kollalim in your community, you should also get some of the new books that we have from Rav Ephraim. The Sefer HaTfisa or Achtov Yisrael are specifically catered for Torah scholars. So with that being said, Rabotai Kareem, we have a very interesting shiur ahead of us, Parashat Beshalach, and to see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us lessons over 3,300 years ago that are as relevant to you today as ever. First and foremost, we have to understand the reality we're in. The reality that we're in is that we are in what we call the instant gratification generation. Everyone wants everything instantly. TikTok, the social media, AI, everything is geared towards instant gratification. And therefore, it's not a surprise that the vast majority, if not almost everyone, that's part of society, usually chooses the shortcuts. Shortcuts to get somewhere, shortcuts to do certain deals, shortcuts to conduct business, shortcuts to praying, shortcuts to everything. But is the shortcut really a shortcut, or does it lead to a dead end? Because the other direction is long and hard, and no one really wants to go on a long, hard path. But yet we see in Parashat Beshalach, right in the beginning, that HaShem chooses the long, hard way for Am Yisrael to journey through the desert in order to avoid war. Yet the Torah tells us that Am Yisrael left Egypt armed. Why? If they're armed for war, then why are we avoiding war? In life, we also prepare for a lot of different wars, a lot of different events, months, years at a time sometimes, only to find out later on that HaShem chose a different way. In so many words, the preparation, whether mental, physical, or otherwise, was a waste of time. Through the verses and some stories from past history, we'll actually find out some things from the parasha that are going to help us not only understand why our past was the way it was, but also how we can prepare to be better prepared for the future. This will be followed by the questions and answers that I know all of you love to ask very much. So, Rabotai, we have Parashat Beshalach. It starts off in chapter 13 of the book of Exodus, and happened when Paro sent out the people that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Plishtim, because it was near. For God said, perhaps the people will reconsider when they see war, and they will return to Egypt. So this is exactly as we talked about, where they're leaving Egypt, and God decides to lead them on a different path. Because if they go on the shorter path, they'll run into the Plishtim, which will certainly get into a war with them because they're defending their land. But yet, just the next verse, it says the children of Israel were armed when they went up from Egypt. Now, of course, we know that chamushim doesn't only mean armed, it's also a hint to the fact that only 20% or less of the Israelites actually survived Egypt. The rest of them, HaShem killed them in Egypt during the darkness plague because they were not prepared to leave Egypt. They wanted to stay there. But he did not want the Egyptians to see him killing the Israelites, and therefore he buried them instantly during the darkness plague when the Egyptians were too busy suffering the plague themselves. But nonetheless, the Exodus came, the salvation came. And you would think that now that the salvation has come, theoretically speaking, it should come full force. We should get to Israel right away. But HaShem says no. If you go the short way, you're going to get into a war. Yeah, but we're armed. Exactly. Because you're armed, I don't want you to go to war. But then we see later on at the end of the parasha that Am Yisrael gets into a war anyway. Just not with the Plishtim. They get into a war with Amalek. So, needless to say, a war happened anyway. What's the message? HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees what's in our hearts. This is one of the 13 principles of our faith that the Rambam says a person that does not believe that has no share of the God of Israel. Hashem knows what's in our hearts, and He actually shows it in this verse that He already knows that if the people of Israel will go to war with the Plishtim, they will want to return to Egypt. He already knows what's in their heart. He already knows the future. Because He is everywhere, which means the past, the present, and the future are all the same thing to Him. And therefore He chooses the long, hard way. But then we ask, why are we afraid of war? Number one, we're going to get into a war anyway with Amalek, which is a much more vicious army anyway. And number two, why not get into war if we're already armed? Why don't you just tell Am Yisrael not to get armed? We see HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us free choice. Free choice to get armed or not. Free choice to carry a gun or not. Free choice to spend all of your time preparing for the end. And free choice to choose to believe in Him. But since this was the salvation, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew that although Am Yisrael is armed and looked like they were prepared for war, they thought they were prepared for war, He knew that their spiritual status was insufficient. And therefore, if a war would happen at this moment, they would not succeed. They would lose, they would be intimidated, and they would run away back to Egypt, back to slavery. Sometimes in life we feel like we're prepared to deal with the big issues. We're prepared to make a big purchase. We're prepared to, do something big. And we do all types of thinking and planning for months, years sometimes. Sometimes just hours. You prepare a conversation you plan on having with your boss, with your colleague, with your partner, only to find out that it never happens. You already prepared a whole discussion, a whole argument of how you're going to say one thing, and then he's going to respond another way, and then you're going to say something else, and you already won the debate by the time you got there. But then you find out that the other party is not even arguing with you. In fact, the argument was only in your head. The war was only in your head. The salvation came in a different way. We feel like we're prepared. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows whether we really are or not. But why wasn't Am Yisrael prepared? Why wasn't Am Yisrael prepared? Because Am Yisrael still felt like, unfortunately, most people feel today, Kochi ve'otzem yadi, my power, my hand, my strength. If you are going to rely on your strength, on your IDF, on your army, on your bombs, on your money, on your political connections, you have no chance of winning. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides who wins and loses. It has nothing to do with any of those factors. And because this is the salvation, this is the one time Hashem says, I will help you make the right choice. Because your natural inclination would be to make the wrong choice, which is to go the easy way because you think you're prepared for war. But I know you're not. I know you're not. In fact, the ultimate goal of this stage of the salvation was for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to teach Am Yisrael to believe in Him and nothing else. To believe in Him and His power and His salvation and nothing else. And therefore, after taking them on what seemed like the short path, we see that things get hectic, when they get to Yam Suf. Because Paro has changed his mind and has convinced all of his people to go and follow him. How did he convince them? The Egyptians realized that not only had they just lost their slaves that were the only way to rebuild that country that was destroyed over the past year, but they also lost all of their money because they gave it to the Jews when they left. But now they realize, hey, gold is $5,200 an ounce. What are we going to do? How are we going to pay for rebuilding the country? Paro says, let's go get them. Let's go get those slaves and bring them back. Yeah, but God's with them. Listen, don't worry about God. Why? There's an idol that's still alive. Apparently, that's a symbol that he's more powerful. And if you want me to show you how confident I am, I'm bringing all of my gold with me. And after we win, we split everything. Not only are you going to have your old gold back, but you also have a peace of mind. Paro makes a deal of a lifetime for these people. They can't say no. And they start going and they catch up. When Am Yisrael sees this, they're petrified. ויראו מאוד ויצעקו בני ישראל אל אדוני. And they were frightened. The children of Israel cried to HaShem. Interestingly, the HaChaim HaKadosh says, this is not just fear, because fear they dealt with already for the last couple of 100 years. Here it says, vayir'u me'od. They were very frightened. Why were they very frightened? Number one, they know what the Egyptians can do. I mean, they lived with them for the last couple 100 years. And number two, hey, after all, they were armed. When you were in Egypt, you weren't armed, so maybe you could fight back. No, says the HaChaim HaKadosh. No, they were afraid. Why? Because they didn't just see the Egyptians. They saw Mitzrayim. They saw that the angel of Egypt, his name is Mitzrayim, is also coming with them. They saw the actual angel. And therefore, they concluded with their own logic that, whoa, what's an angel doing with the Egyptians? They're wicked. It must be that HaShem changed his mind. It must be that God abandoned us because the angels are with the Egyptians now. And therefore, terror struck their heart. But the question is, why is HaShem doing this? Why is HaShem doing this? Because the goal is to bring them to Emunah. How could scaring them to death with a huge angel that could destroy everyone in an instant, an army that's massive and already known to kill Jews just for fun, all chasing them? Why do all this? Why bring what seems like a Holocaust? Because I want to teach you, says Moshe Rabbeinu. ויאמר משה אל העם, אל תיראו, התייצבו וראו את ישועת אדוני אשר יעשה לכם היום. כי אשר ראיתם את מצרים היום, לא תוסיפו לראותם עוד עד עולם. In verse number 13 in chapter 14, Moshe says to the people, do not fear, stand fast, and see the salvation of HaShem that he will perform for you today. For as you have seen Egypt today, you shall not see them ever again. And then my favorite verse that I say every day for my name, where it starts with the first letter of my name and ends with the last letter of my name, Adonai lachem lachem v'atem techarishun. HaShem shall fight the war for you, and you shall remain silent. Why is HaShem doing all of this? Moshe Rabbeinu says, because he wants to show you that only he wins wars. Doesn't matter if you're armed. It doesn't matter if you just bought billions of dollars worth of jets. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of gold. It doesn't matter if you're smart. It doesn't matter if you want to win. You believe in yourself. None of that matter. Only Hashem decides who wins the wars. And he wants to show you this because this is the salvation. And in order for you to see that salvation, you have to show you believe in him before he even does anything. Because when people are screaming, petrified, Moshe Rabbeinu prays to Hashem, v'yitzak, Moshe is screaming to Hashem, v'yomer Adonai el Moshe, ma titzak elai, daber lebnei Yisrael v'yisau. Hashem says to Moshe, why do you cry out to me? Speak to the children of Israel and let them journey forth. Meaning you just told them, I'm going to bring them to the salvation. Let them move forward to show that they actually believe that I will bring them to salvation. This is the long, hard path, but it's the one that's going to bring salvation. The short path is going to bring failure. Because the short path relies on your skills. The short path relies on your knowledge. The short path relies on your ability. The short path relies on kochi ve'otzem yadi. The more you believe in your own abilities, the less Hashem will help you. Intentionally in order to get you to go to the path that's full of success. Even though your path looks like it's short, it's a shortcut. It ends up being a dead end. It ends up being a dead end. When Am Yisrael shows that they believe in Hashem, first by having Nachshon ben Aminadav of the tribe of Yehudah, where from him comes Mashiach, going to the water to the point where he's literally drowning. But he knows that Hashem wants him to go this way. Doesn't make sense to go back, that's where the Egyptians are. Doesn't make sense to go right or left because there's huge scorpions and giant snakes in both directions. The only direction is forward, into an ocean where nobody knows how to swim in. After Nachshon does this, others follow him and Hashem splits the sea. And the Torah tells us, after the Egyptians follow and then end up being destroyed, וירא ישראל את היד הגדולה אשר עשה אדוני במצרים, ויראו העם את אדוני ויאמינו באדוני ובמשה עבדו. Israel saw the Egyptians dead at the seashore. Israel saw the great hand that Hashem inflicted upon Egypt, and the people revered Hashem, and they had faith in Hashem and in Moshe, his servant. Here we see the path of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a map of how a person can go from the journey that depends on their own abilities, on their own talents, on their own kochi ve'otzem yadi, and replace that with Yad Hashem, with the hand of Hashem. How? First, Israel saw. They saw the great hand of Hashem. They realized only Hashem wins wars. Only Hashem can get me this job. Only Hashem can find me the perfect zivug. Only Hashem will decide if I'm going to have a kid or not, or more kids. Only Hashem is going to decide whether I will succeed or fail. Only Hashem, not me, not my ability, not my contacts, not my knowledge, nothing else. Only Hashem can decide it. First, a person has to see the great hand of Hashem. The moment that you know that you're seeing the hand of Hashem and not your own abilities, what happens? Naturally, and the people revered Hashem, naturally you become scared of Hashem. Why? He's all-powerful. He knows my thoughts, he knows my feelings, he knows the future, he knows the past. He knows everything. He's all-powerful. He's almighty. So of course I'm going to be scared. Anyone that tells you he's not scared of God is either an atheist or an idiot. Why? Because if you understand how extraordinary, glorious, mighty a Kadosh Baruch Hu is, of course you're going to be afraid. Afraid of a punishment, afraid of disconnect, afraid of everything. There's levels of fear. But if you don't see the hand of Hashem in your life, then of course you're not going to be afraid. So the first stage is to see the hand of Hashem. See how He's in charge of everything. Then you'll have fear of Hashem. And if you have that fear of Hashem, then it says, and they had faith in Hashem and Moshe's servant. Then you will have real faith, real emunah in Hashem and in His servants. Without having an understanding that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rules everything, decides everything, and as the Gemara says, Akol midei shamayim chutz miyirat shamayim, everything is from heaven except the fear of heaven. Success or failure is decided by heaven, decided by Hashem. The only thing you decide is whether you fear Hashem or not, meaning whether you will follow His Torahs or not. And how do we know that that's what Hashem wants from us? Because that's what He says. As soon as Am Yisrael crosses the sea, they sing, but the celebration is not very long-lived. As we see in chapter 15, verse number 24, Vayilonu Am, the people complained. What are they complaining about? What are we going to drink? Already you're complaining? Didn't you just see that Hashem made miracles upon miracles, destroyed your enemy, split the ocean, made the path perfect, brought you fruit trees within the ocean? I mean, you didn't see. So obviously He can give you water. He can give you something to drink. Complained. Short-term memory. Instant gratification. Instant gratification. That's what people want. And Moshe Rabbeinu teaches them, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from us? Before He gives them the water, He cries out to Hashem, ויצעק אל אדוני ויורהו אדוני עץ, וישלך אל המים וימתקו המים שם, שם לו חוק ומשפט ושם נישאו. He cried out to Hashem and Hashem showed him a tree. He threw it into the water. And the water became sweet. There Hashem established for the nation a decree and an ordinance. And there He tested it. There He started giving them mitzvot. The mitzvah of Parah Adumah, the red heifer. The mitzvah of Shabbat. Here is another place where we see that the oral Torah existed before the written Torah, or was given to us before the written Torah. Unlike what fools think, that the oral Torah is man-made and irrelevant and so on and so forth. We see that before Mount Sinai, Hashem gives us decrees and ordinances. He gives us the mitzvah of Shabbat. How do we know this Shabbat for sure? Because later on in this parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu tells us we have to keep Shabbat and not go collecting for the manna on Shabbat. If He didn't give us the mitzvah of Shabbat, then why are you mentioning Shabbat? That how are we supposed to know what that is? So we realize, we see that Shabbat was already given to them. Well before the manna, well before Mount Sinai, Am Yisrael already knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects them to follow the Torah. And if you follow the Torah, all of the ailments, all of the sicknesses that I put upon Egypt, I will not bring upon you. For I am HaShem, your healer. Now, of course, Am Yisrael is happy with this. But again, just like the salvation that a person gets whether he got a raise, he made a lot of money in the investments, he did something good before he made the money, before he got the job. He said, Hashem, listen, you make this success, and this $5,000 turns to $100,000, turns to $50,000, goes, just makes any profit, definitely I'm going to publicize Torah. Well, guess what? The $5,000 to $50,000 turns into $1 million. And the person says, no, you know what? I need to pay off my kids' tuition, and also I want to go on vacation. Plus, we have some old debt I need to pay off. Plus, I need to make a new investment to make the money grow. All of a sudden, publicizing the Torah is not as important. I'll publicize Torah with when I get a chance, or with small money. But with the big money, no, that's only for big things. Big things like for me. That's what happened with Am Yisrael. Here, Am Yisrael gets the salvation, gets sweet water, gets mitzvot. But only a few verses later, in chapter 16, verse number 2, Ve'yelono kol edat bnei Yisrael. The entire assembly of the children of Israel complained against Moshe and Aaron. Why? Now we need food. Yeah, but I gave you the first salvation. I turned your investment and it worked out. I gave you the job. You got the raise. Yeah, but now I need a promotion. Now I need the next investment to work. Now I need another kid. I know you gave me one kid, but I'm not going to be happy with one kid. I need a second one. I know you gave me a wife, but now I need kids. I know you gave me a husband, but now I need a rich husband. I need my husband to be rich. And we complain again, as if Hashem did not bring us the salvation. And that's what happened. And that's what's happening. And again, Hashem says that He's testing us to see whether they will follow my Torahs or not. Again, mentioning plural, as teachings plural, not singular. Am Yisrael gets the man. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu has Moshe Rabbeinu remind everybody. Observing Shabbat shows that you believe that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh, which in today's language means the money that you made throughout the whole week is because you kept Shabbat. Not because you're a good businessman, not because gold prices and diamond prices and all the different commodities went in your direction that you wanted to go, not because you are a good marketer, not because you're a studious lawyer. No. The reason why Hashem gave you what He gave you is because you had a blessing of Shabbat. Now a person says, well, I don't keep Shabbat, or this guy doesn't keep Shabbat, but he has a lot of money. Exactly. You see, what Hashem gives him is, when he doesn't keep Shabbat, is only a fraction of what he would have gotten had he kept Shabbat. And in fact, when Hashem gives you money, Hashem gives you parnasah, as a result of you keeping Shabbat, it's blessed money. Whereas the money you make by working on Shabbat, it's always cursed money. It's always cursed money. It's always money you're going to spend on lawyers. It's always money you're going to spend on medical bills. It's always money that you're going to end up losing. Just like some people are losing money today, literally, in 2 seconds. There was a report that just came out. Thousands of people in America in the last year lost literally almost every penny they have just simply because of a text message. How? They get a text message from their bank, the bank they know. They call the bank because the text message says, did you just wire $4,500? And they didn't. So they will call the bank to see if it's fraud or something. And they call the number they know, not realizing that the hackers actually took over the call. They called the hackers instead of their bank. And in the process gave the hackers all the information they needed to completely wipe out their bank accounts. Hundreds of thousands, and in some cases millions of dollars disappeared in an instant. Not by, falling for a trap of somebody telling you, send your money to this one and I'll protect it for you, which is a very common scam. We're talking about people being scammed by what seems like their bank, but it's not their bank. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to show everyone who runs the world. You can save, you can prepare, you can invest, but if HaShem doesn't want to give you the blessing, just like that, it's gone. You could save for years. For years you could save. But without having the blessings, you could only look at the money in your account. It's there. Your $100,000, your $1 million, your $5 million, $10 million, it's there, it's on the screen. Makes you feel good. But one day you're going to want to use it. And guess what? Right before that happens, gone. How? There's literally endless ways, as we see today happening to people. Lawsuits, thefts, scams, all divorces, all types of things. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is reminding us He's the one that provides the resources, and He's the one that's going to either stamp it with a blessing or not. Now, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu is different from everyone else. Why? At the end of the parasha, after the war with Amalek, Moshe Rabbeinu brings a sacrifice and also tells everyone the way we're going to win this war against Amalek, that's vicious, that's not defending any land. In fact, they travel thousands of miles just to fight us. Because this is the fight of good versus evil. We're only going to win this war if we have Emunah in HaShem. And that's why in chapter 17, verse number 13, it says, V'yi yadav emunah. And he remained with his hands in faithful prayer until sunset. And later on, he brings us the sacrifice, and he calls it Vayikra Shmo Adonai Nisi. He called this sacrifice, Hashem is my miracle. Hashem is my miracle. Moshe, as the leader, is leading by example. This is the job of each and every single person to lead, whether it's their community or it's their family, to lead with Emunah. But that Emunah starts with understanding that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that gives the blessings or takes them away. When a person has real Emunah, observing the mitzvot is a given. It's, of course I have to. Using your resources to publicize as much Torah as possible to help people do TeShuva is the number one investment you have. Why? Because you know where 100% of the money comes from. Therefore, to give 10 or 20% of the money to publicize Hashem's name and to help more people understand the same thing, of course, that's a discount. But sometimes people forget. People forget, and they end up losing the blessing. And usually they come crying, says, listen, Rabbi, I used to have blessing, and I stopped donating to you, and apparently the blessing is gone. Can you pray for me? Habibi, you lost the blessing with your own hands. What's a prayer for me going to do for you? Your actions brought the blessings. Your actions took away the blessings. You want to change it? Change your actions. That's the way. But sometimes people don't have patience. They figure, look, listen, if I'm going to donate, I'm going to get some results now. This year. This month. And guess what? HaShem gives you results. He brings you the salvation, but it's a different path than you think you wanted. He actually brought you the salvation. He broke up the shidduch, because if you would have gotten married with that person, you would have gotten divorced and suffered for the rest of your life. He got you fired from that job. That was the salvation. Why? Because as a result of that, you'll end up opening up your own business and make a whole lot more money and have a lot more success and be more Torah observant as a result. So he brought you the salvation. He brought you the miracle, but you don't see it that way because it didn't match your logic. The mistake that people make is they think they can not only narrate what's the right path, but when the salvation is supposed to come and how it's supposed to be. Shows a lack of Emunah in HaShem, a lack of understanding of our role. But there were some people that understood how they're supposed to lead, how they're supposed to follow, how they're supposed to play their role. Rabbi Lupolianski, that I spoke about, just passed away in the last few weeks, was one of those people that constantly had HaShem on his mind. And he did everything he possibly could to publicize Torah and use whatever resources HaShem gave him to help the Jewish world. One day, he met a Hasid Chabad that had a family member, a brother-in-law, that was the rabbi in Georgia, the country Georgia, which is a keilah that Rav Lupolianski invested a lot into, years into, when they immigrated to Israel, the Gruzinim. So Rabbi Uri asked him, how are they doing over there in Georgia? And the Chassid said to him, no, not so good. But why not? He says, because they just got a new prime minister by the name of Michael Saakashvili, or Saakashvili, who apparently was anti-Semitic and did not want the Jewish people to have religious freedom. Without skipping a beat, Rabbi Uri said, no worries, I'll take care of it. Okay? Most people would say, oh, I'll pray for them. Oh, I'll, see if I could do something, but move on with their life. They're so busy with so many other things. But Rabbi Uri, no. Right away, he placed the call, being a mayor from Israel. They respected where the call came from, and he wanted to get the Prime Minister, Michael Saakashvili, on the phone. When he got him on the phone, he said, oh, I wanted to call you because we are having an event here in Jerusalem to name a street after the freedom leader of Georgia, Shuta Rostarville, who apparently was buried here. And we thought that we should give you the honor to come and cut the ribbon. We're going to have an event. What does your honor think? And of course, this prime minister says, of course, I will be there. Thank you. And they made a big event to name the street after somebody. This was a great honor for the prime minister because he fought hard to become prime minister. A lot of enemies. Now they're giving him honor from Israel. And Rabbi Uri made sure also that the rabbi from Georgia also came, made a trip to Israel, to this event. And of course, this prime minister is very happy he got so much honor. And he says, thank you to Uri. He goes, oh, Rabbi Uri says, no. You have to meet my dear friend. It was all his idea. Oh, I must meet him. Who is he? This rabbi over here. He arranged the whole thing. He says you are such an honorable person. You deserved it. Because he lives in your country. He knows well what you do and how hard you fight. All I can tell you is, after that, there was religious freedom in Georgia. There was no more problems for the Kehillah. Apparently, anti-Semitism wasn't exactly on his top priority list. Many times, the salvation comes to us in a way that is different than we would thought. People would think maybe the salvation will come if I do this or if I do that. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the salvation in a very different way. One of the worst decisions that people make on a regular basis is thinking that they know how to conclude things. And I'll explain. When a person has a twisted mind, a mind that's absent of Da'at Torah, they are inclined to make the wrong decision even if you provide them the information. Because they have a certain bias, and they're not going to humble themselves to the laws and the rulings of the Torah and its sages. One example of that is one of the stories the sages teach. There was a man who could read thoughts. He knew how to read thoughts of people by looking at their face and so on. And there was a second guy that knew this, and he said, can you teach me? He said, no, it's not good for you. Come on, please, do it, please. And he bothered them for long enough time. Eventually he said, okay, fine, I'll teach you. So, he learned this. And Rabbi Hoffman, who told the story, which I heard from Rav Ephraim, my own dear Rav, says that this man learned how to read people's thoughts. And as he's working, he sees that there is a old man, looks righteous, looks religious. But as he's looking at him and reading his mind, he sees that this old man is thinking about young women. Pervert. And seconds later, he's thinking about young men. This guy's disgusting. Wow, looks must be deceiving. Then he looks another place, and he sees that the guy that's cleaning, he's thinking about Rashi. Moments later, he's thinking about the Rambam. Moments later, he's thinking about the Ramban. And all types of great sages go through. It's like, wow, this guy must be a hidden tzaddik. His teacher says, you're wrong on both of them. Let me show you. They go and they find out from the old man. Excuse me, sir. What do you do? He says, well, I'm a shatchan. I try to make couples. Jewish man with a Jewish woman. So I'm constantly thinking about which is the perfect shidduch for him, which is the perfect shidduch for her. I really love helping people. So yeah, he's thinking about boys and girls, but he's thinking about them in a positive way. He's thinking about helping them, unlike what this guy thought. He goes to the second guy, the cleaner, to see if this is really a hidden tzaddik. He says, excuse me, sir, is this your only job? He says, no, this is a job that's my second job. But my main job is that I make book covers. Oh yeah? What kind of books? Well, I make for holy books. So right now I'm working on one book, I think it's called Rashi. I don't know much about the book. I just know that they are having me make the book, make the cover, and then bind it. And then there's also a Rambam, I think it's called. And then another one that's similar, it's called Ramban. So they find out this guy, he's no hidden tzaddik. In fact, he doesn't know anything about who these authors are. He just knows his job. Many times we are just like that. We think we know what other people think. And we conclude for them what their decision should be and how we're going to argue and debate in order to get our way. And sometimes a person can have a whole discussion in his mind, in her mind, of how certain things are supposed to be. And they're literally fighting with people in their mind. Why? Because they believe in their own power, in their own understanding. And they've forgotten that the salvation only comes from HaShem. The salvation only comes from HaShem. And sometimes the salvation is the last thing you would have thought. The last example is an example of how different Talmidei Chachamim are than regular people, and how they view something to be a salvation and what's not. In the Sefer by Rav Mazuz that Talmidim gathered up a bunch of his stories from his shiurim on Shabbat. He writes in page number 67 that a little over 1,000 years ago, at the time of the Geonim, there was a big machloket between two Torah giants, Rabbi Chanoch ben Rabbi Moshe, Rabbi Chanoch the son of Rabbi Moshe, and Rabbi Yosef ben Shatanas. What was the machloket about? Machloket was who is going to be the leader, because Rabbi Chanoch's father, Rabbi Moshe, was the leader, was the Gdol Hador, and he just passed away. And even though some people thought that Rabbi Yosef ben Shatanash should be the leader, Rabbi Chanoch gathered the 700 richest people in the city as his support. So much so, the support was so overbearing that he put Rabbi Yosef on cherem, on nidui. So people don't think that they can learn two different Torahs. To make it clear, this is similar to what happened in the times of the Gemara with Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos. Rabbi Yosef left the city. He went to Rav Chai Gaon to remove the nidui from him. Rav Chai Gaon said to him, how could I go against all of them if that's what they paskined? A short while later, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure that his answer is clear. A messenger comes and tells Rabbi Yosef that Rabbi Chanoch and all 700 of his supporters were having an event of some kind, and the ceiling of the building collapsed and killed all of them. All at once. Similar to what happened in the Gemara with Rabbi Shimon ben Shattach, when he saw that the rabbis were scared of the king and not ruling according to the Torah, he said, let HaShem rebuke you for being afraid of people, even a king. And the Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent the Malach Gabriel, who took his hand, his giant hand, and killed the entire room, all of them except Rabbi Shimon ben Shattach. And these were Torah sages, These were Chachamim. But in their moments of weakness, they failed, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes or rebukes the righteous with much more stringency. Apparently, the similar concept happened here with Rabbi Chanoch ben Rabbi Moshe. Certainly, he was righteous. Certainly, he came from good family. But apparently, his ways were against the will of HaShem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure that everyone knows it. Now, the average person hears this, says, wow, Rabbi Yosef must be so happy. Not only did all of his enemies die, but now it's clear that he's the leader. But Rabbi Yosef did not do that. In fact, Rabbi Yosef started crying hysterical and said, "Oy to me, woe to me. I wish I never got into this debate with him in the first place. And if I had another chance, I would go to him right now and apologize." Meaning the debate between the Chachamim was never for the sake of, I'm bigger, you're bigger, I'm stronger, you're stronger. No, it's, what's the will of Hashem? What's the will of Hashem? But I didn't want the will of Hashem to cost you your life. So instead of looking at it as a salvation, he saw it in the world lost, one of the Torah giants, due to this debate. Now, of course, that Torah is always to protect the honor of Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do what he does regardless. But from here we learn that the salvation doesn't just go in a different direction sometimes. It's nearly all the time. The salvation will come in a different way than we thought, that we planned for, that we prepared for. In order to teach us to stop relying on our efforts, on our abilities, on our resources, and start relying more on Hashem. Because from Him comes everything. That was the lesson that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was teaching Am Yisrael right from the start of the Exodus. Yes, you may have weapons, but if you were put up to the test, you would lose because you think it's from you. And it's not from you. Only Hashem wins the wars. Only Hashem decides who lives, who dies. Only Hashem decides whether you're going to make it or you're going to lose it. Only Hashem decides whether you're going to have it or you're not going to have it. Only Hashem decides. Which means that our goal is to see the hand of Hashem and thereby to fear Him in order to have Emunah in Him. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will succeed in having Emunah in Hashem and His servants. Now we're going to answer the question that we asked last week. Many of you have sent me interesting answers. The question was, there was a hitchhiker in Yerushalayim looking for a ride. These few guys got into a taxi and they say, "Oh, where you want to go, hitchhiker?" And the hitchhiker says, "I want to go to Tel Aviv." I said, "Oh, just hop along." He goes, "No, I don't have the money for such a cab." "No, don't worry, we're going there anyway, so just jump along." Okay, fine. He went in the car with them, and as soon as they got to Tel Aviv, these few people that pretended they were doing a nice gesture ended up showing that their true colors, that they're crooks. They ran out of the car and left just the hitchhiker in it. Now the taxi driver wants the money. And the hitchhiker says, "Listen, I understand what they did, but you know my situation. I said, I'm looking for a free ride." He says, "I don't care if free ride or not free ride. You were partners with them. I want my money. I just spent a couple of hours going from Yerushalayim to Tel Aviv. Somebody has to pay me." Some of you said that he has to pay part of it, he has to pay all of it, he benefited. All types of different answers. And the answer is as follows. The Shulchan Aruch says that if somebody gets invited to eat at somebody's house, and then at the end of the meal, the guy says, you have to pay me for the meal. If he wouldn't have had any other place to eat, then he has to pay him. But if he could have gotten food elsewhere, he doesn't have to pay him. And the same applies here. If this hitchhiker could have gotten a ride in another way and gotten to Tel Aviv for free, he doesn't have to pay. But if there was no other way, then he does have to pay his portion. How do we know? It depends on what day of the week it is. If it's any day of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then it's very likely that he would have gotten a free ride from somebody. Wait a long enough time, he'll get it. Therefore, he doesn't have to pay. But if it was a Friday, which means that people are in a hurry and less likely to give somebody a ride all the way to Tel Aviv, have the patience and so on, then the debate becomes more difficult of whether he has to pay or not, because he's less likely to get a free ride. So, a lot of different factors, but needless to say, interesting. We'll ask another question. It's similar in a way, but certainly not the same. Person passes away and leaves his kids, his stuff. They go into the house, they check, he has some books here, he has a few bars of gold, he has a few different things. And they see that there's a cow. Oh, okay. Abba had a cow. All right, listen. Let's celebrate his life and feast on this cow. And they do. They have a feast. They invite some people. The whole family comes for the yard site of the father. And they eat the cow. The next day, somebody knocks on their door. Say, hey, how are you guys? I heard your father passed away. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear. But, I'm here to collect my cow. It's like, what do you mean your cow? My cow. I lent your father my cow, and I want it back. Obviously, since your father's not here, he's not going to be able to take care of it, so I want my cow back. What cow? The cow that was in the backyard. You know, the one that's black and white, has a lazy eye. Oh, we ate it. Ate it? Why would you eat my cow? We didn't know it's your cow. We thought it's our father's cow. All right, fine. Just pay me for the cow then. It's $25,000. No. You don't understand. We didn't know it's your cow. He goes, I understand you didn't know it's my cow, but you still ate it. Either regurgitate my cow back into life or give me $25,000 because I have to go buy another cow. They go to Bet Din. What should we do? Listen, we understand that it's his cow, but we didn't know it's his cow. We didn't know it's his cow. We ate it. We thought, listen, we saw that there's books, there's stuff in our father's house. We thought everything's our father's. How are we supposed to know that's his cow? He didn't have a license plate on the cow. He didn't write his name on the cow. This cow belongs to Reuven. No. How are we supposed to know? And he says, listen, know or you didn't know. That's your problem you didn't know. You ate the cow. You should have asked. How we can ask? We're going to look at every item in the house and say, who does this belong, who does this book belong to? Go in the middle of the market and say, excuse me, who does this book belong to? Oh, it's nobody? Okay, so this must be our father's. Okay, we have a bar of gold here. Does this belong to anybody? Everyone's going to raise their hand. Yeah, it's mine. So how are we going to know? What's the answer? Do they have to pay? Don't have to pay? That's the question. Think about it. B'ezrat Hashem, send me your answers. You could send me your answers on my WhatsApp or email. And B'ezrat Hashem, you guys will succeed.
I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend. We did it. AI Rabbi is here. It's an AI model that is based on kosher Torah sources, 30 different languages that are available to you. So if you want to ask it in Spanish, in Chinese, Portuguese, whatever you want to do, it's available for you. Can you tell me about Rabbi Akiva? So it's timestamped to the shiur. You press this green button, AI Rabbi on your WhatsApp. You'll have the ability to ask questions at will. You'll be provided sources, and most importantly, you'll be able to know the truth and be able to rely on the sources.
So with that being said, you guys can start asking some questions, and B'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. It's all about money with you, Rabbi. Yeah, you're right. All about money. Asking people a question about a cow. All about money. It's all... Oh, I see the Free Palestine flags. From the same person. When will the third temple be completed? When Mashiach comes. Once the Mashiach comes, one of the signs that he's really Mashiach is that he's going to build the Bet HaMikdash. Is charging interest forbidden in your religion? My religion is Judaism, and charging interest has rules. A Jew is not allowed to charge another Jew interest if both of them are religious, meaning if the lender is a Jew, regardless of whether he's religious or not, but and the borrower is a religious Jew, he's not allowed to charge him interest. But if the borrower is a non-religious Jew, like a reform, a mechalel Shabbat, someone that has removed themselves from from Klal Yisrael, but specific sins that they make, where they don't follow the Torah, they're an atheist or something like that, then technically, according to Halakha, you're allowed to charge him interest. Now, when a Jew lends money to a non-Jew, they're also allowed to charge interest. But the rule is that it has to be reasonable in accordance to the laws of the land, which means that they're not allowed to charge whatever they want. They can't just charge the guy 400% or 1,000% or even 100% interest, regardless of whether the guy agrees or not. Why? Because that's a predatory rate. They're allowed to charge what's reasonable within the laws of the land. So, for example, in America, I believe the highest rate you're legally allowed to charge through the banks and so on is like credit cards. I believe it's around 30% or so, 29%, something like that. So, if somebody would charge within that area around 30% or less, then technically they're allowed to charge interest. But if they charge 40, 50, 60%, all of these other predatory rates, then this is not allowed according to the Torah, even if the law of the land has a loophole that allows it. This is the loophole of the merchant cash advance industry and other similar industries with other names that they take advantage of it. The merchant cash advance industry are not banks. Even though some of the money they get for investors are banks, but the actual lenders themselves are not banks. This is the reason why they're able to charge much more than banks. Like if, let's say, for example, your Bank of America or Chase lends you money, they are not allowed to charge you more than that 30% for the credit card, and for regular loans, much less than that, less than half of that. So even if they want to charge you 100%, and you agree for them to charge you 100%, Chase or Bank of America or any regulated bank is not allowed to do it. It will be an illegal transaction. But the merchant cash advance industry is able to do it, not because the law says it's allowed, but rather there's something called a loophole. That since they are not bank entities, they are able to take advantage of this legal loophole that's over 100 years old until it gets removed and they end up, destroying this industry and shutting it down, which eventually will happen, especially since Donald Trump already has an eye on the banks, saying that he wants them to only charge 10%. So if he's bothered by the fact that banks are able to charge slightly more than 10%, needless to say, once he finds out about the damage that the cash advance industry is causing to his economy, to his country, to his people, needless to say, he's going to end up shutting down that industry, if not putting all of the people in jail. But, the Kadosh Baruch Hu will bring the salvation at some point or another in his own way. So the answer is yes, but it has rules. What I said is not beating around the bush. What I said is an explanation. If your brain is too small to understand an explanation, then you should go back to watching cartoons. I want to learn more about Judaism. What do you recommend? I recommend you watch more of our videos on our YouTube channel. Rabbi Yaron Reuven, go to YouTube. I have thousands of videos over there. And along the way, there are books that I recommend, or you could go to our website. There is something called interactive PDFs, and in those interactive PDFs that you could download for free, there are different book recommendations for converts, for Noahides, either people that want to convert to Judaism or people that just want to be righteous Gentiles. There's different books that I recommend for people to get. Is the Rav familiar with invoice factoring? Of course I'm familiar. It's very similar to the cash advance. It's just a different name. They take over the receivables of the business and make a deal with the company that is struggling and wants money now rather than later. And in return, they give them money right now, but they get all the receivables, all the money that people pay, their customers pay them, that goes directly to the lender. And yes, the rates are very, very high. And in many cases, they are very similar to merchant cash advance. And that's, yes, certainly a problematic business, according to halacha. Jewish people run the banks. Not necessarily. I mean, it's in today's world, it's not like it used to be from a couple hundred years ago or even 100 years ago when, you had major banks being private. At the time of Lehman Brothers founding, Goldman Sachs, Rothschild, we're talking about 100, 200 years ago, 400 years ago. The biggest banks were owned by the Jews. And in fact, these same Jews saved France, saved America, the French Revolution, the American Civil War. All of these were paid by Jews. And in fact, the Jewish lender that lent money to the United States never got his money back. So just in case you guys don't know, your freedom in America is actually because of a Jew that never got his money back. So you kind of owe him money. But nonetheless, a lot of things have changed in the last 100 years where the biggest banks in the world have become public corporations, which means that nobody owns them. You have Chase, you have Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, all types of major banks. These banks are owned by investors. So if you have a little bit of money, you can actually buy a piece of those companies. Now, you're not obviously becoming a controlling owner, but you can own shares of those companies. So, and the reality is that if a person understands what a public company is, they realize that there is no such thing as as the same thing today as there was back then. That's number one. The second thing is to understand that if the world was in accordance to the Jewish law, then the world would be a much better place. How do we know that? Simply look at all of the times where Jewish law, the Torah meaning, was the dominant force in the world. Whether it was at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, you see how the world started following what we did. They started becoming monotheistic instead of idol worshippers. They started constructing rules for themselves instead of just being barbarians. Things changed. We brought monotheism, we brought civilization, we brought all of the wisdoms of the world came from our Torah. Furthermore, the other religions, whether it be Christianity or Islam, these are, in essence, something that started as a result of our Torah, not despite our Torah. If it wasn't for the Torah that we got at Mount Sinai, there would be no Christianity or New Testament or anything. There would be no Islam or anything. So that's another thing. In fact, it's not only that the Christian false god Yoshke was a Jew, that everybody knows, but the original teachers of Muhammad, the original teacher of Muhammad was a Jew. So it's it's ridiculous how little people know about the benefits they get from the Jewish people. Last but not least, if you look at the laws of the Torah and you compare them to the laws of any land, the business laws, the civil laws, any part of the laws, and you compare them apples for apples, you will always arrive at the conclusion that the Torah law is superior and more beneficial for people, whether it's the way we treat women and how much we respect them and honor them, or how we treat business laws, or how we treat any other nations and so on. Now, the problem is that most people get their impression of the Jewish people not from the Torah, not from learning the Torah, but they get their impression of the Jewish people from either some anti-Semite that knows how to copy from the previous anti-Semites from previous generations and take parts of our Torah and distort them and tell people they say one thing when in reality they're saying something else. Or people learn their impression from the Jewish world from bad actors. What's bad actors? Somebody that does not follow the Torah, but happens to be a Jew. And people say, oh, this guy, Bernie Madoff, he stole money. That means that all Jews are thieves. Bernie Madoff was a wicked, wicked person. He did not follow the Torah. He did not follow Judaism. The fact that he was born to Jewish parents does not make him a representation of the Jewish people. He did not follow the Jewish people. He hated Judaism. So to say that such a person like that or any of the other bad actors out there are a representation of Judaism is not only foolish, but it's just simply wrong. It's the same way that you cannot judge anything by bad actors. You can't judge all of the Muslim people based on bad actors. You can't judge all of the Chinese people based on bad actors. You can't judge anything based on bad actors. In fact, if let's say, for example, you were born in a family, and let's say you're a family of 6. You have 3 brothers and your parents. And you and 2 of your brothers are angels among men. But one of your brothers is a terrorist. One of your brothers is a horrible, horrible person. He rapes, he kills, he steals, he does every crime under the sun. Now you're ready to go get married, and you find a nice girl. She comes from a good family, and she says, well, listen, my father wants to meet your family, and he wants to meet your brothers. And then he says, wait, look, his brother's a terrorist, his brother's a thief, his brother's a killer. I don't want you to marry him. What are you going to say? No, that's my brother, it's not me. He happens to be related to me, but we don't act the same way. He's going against my parents. He's going against our tradition. Don't judge me because of him. Why? Because it wouldn't be fair. So you already know that the Torah that we got from God, that's our rule book. People that follow that rule book are righteous Jews. They are the example of what Judaism is. They are the example of the Jewish people. People that do not follow that book are not a representation of the Jewish people. Simple. And if you judge us based on the people that go against the Torah, not only are you mistaken, but you don't realize that we also suffer from those people. We also suffer from those bad Jews. So that's one of the things that people have to understand, and I think one of the best ways to understand is by empathizing, looking at your own situations, because there's no place that doesn't have a bad apple. Let's see. Gabriel was a Muslim. Gabriel is an angel. He's not a Muslim. He's not a Jew. He's an angel. The fact that you think that an angel was Muslim shows how little you actually know about anything. You should actually try reading a little bit. It'll help you. A woman I recently learned that I'm not allowed to pray, but that is the way that I feel connected to HaShem. I feel that I haven't been connecting to HaShem since I stopped. What should I do? Not sure who told you you're not allowed to pray. You're allowed to pray as much as you want. Rabbi, does a ger Katan need to be formally asked before his bar mitzvah if he wants to stay a Jew? Yes. Rabbi, as a Noahide, how do we find true friends if we don't use any social media nor have a job to be able to communicate with people? Get a job. Get a job and you'll have other people that you'll meet. You'll get customers. You'll have different colleagues. Don't just stay in your room. It's not healthy for you, and it's certainly not the way to live. Cain wasn't a murderer. It's a spiritual allegory, like Fight Club. Yeah, you probably learned from some moron that is trying to reinvent the Torah. So, refuah shlema. Rabbi, what do you say about the prophecy of 144,000 virgin Jewish evangelists according to Revelations? The New Testament is idolatry and everything in there is complete nonsense. Abandon the New Testament and go learn Torah, the written Torah and the oral Torah, and you'll understand what the purpose of life is and not foolishness. I stopped wasting seed 8 years ago when I was 40 years old after watching your shiur on wasting seed. And my business expanded, and I was able to buy my house after donating to the Bezrat Hashem organization. Baruch Hashem. Continue to donate. Continue to do it. Obviously, if you brought your blessing in the past, continue. You see the results. Bezrat Hashem, there's much more that Hashem can give you. Rabbi, I'd like to get your email. I could send my response. You could send the response to it's the email that's not. I gave it to a few of you guys. That's not. My main email is flooded with thing. Oh, you could send it to events, EVENTS, at bhtorah, bhtorah.org. That's not flooded. Now, you guys send responses, send short responses. Same thing if people ask questions and so on, keep them short. If you send me a Megillah, I usually don't have the time to read it. Rabbi, I ate bacon today. Please forgive me. Why would I care if you ate bacon? I'm not God. Your problem is with God if you're a Jew, not with me. If you're not a Jew, then you're allowed to eat bacon all you want. Why was the man who raped a 3-year-old in the Talmud found not in fault? There's no such thing. You're learning from anti-Semites, just like I said before, that simply take different bits of information and make new rules. When the Torah says, the Talmud says that a girl that was raped before the age of 3 years old can still be considered a virgin, that's because the sages say it's not that we promote it, allow it, chas v'shalom. In fact, the Torah says that somebody that does such a thing is a death penalty, which means the Torah is much more critical, and the punishment from the Torah is much worse than the law of the land or law of any other religion, in fact. So why does the Torah talk about a 3-year-old? Because if such a thing happened, we have a tradition from Mount Sinai that if it happened before she's 3 years old, the rechem, the hymen, will actually repair as if nothing ever happened. But if it happened after 3 years old, then it would never repair, and therefore we judge accordingly. But this has nothing to do with allowing pedophilia or anything like that. This has nothing to do with it. It's simply the sages explaining the difference of what happens to the body of somebody that has a trauma happen to them before 3 years old or after 3 years old. But if you look at the actual Talmud of what it says about rape, you'll see that it's a severe sin, no matter what the age is, whether it's pedophilia or if it's a grown woman. In fact, the Torah calls a rapist a murderer. So when you learn from anti-Semites, when you learn from fools, you're going to learn mistakes. So if you want to actually learn the truth, you'll have to learn from people that actually know it, not from just some, YouTuber that decided that he wants to make up stuff. Why do we deny Jesus? Because he was a wicked person and caused people to follow him instead of God. Why do you keep quiet on Palestinians? I don't keep quiet about it. Anytime people tell me free Palestine, I agree. Free Palestine, we are. We're freeing them from terrorism. We're freeing them from Hamas. We're freeing them from Israel to get out. We're free. We're all for free Palestine. Can Noahides or Gentiles eat bacon? Yes. They can eat bacon, they can eat non-kosher. The only thing they're not allowed to eat is an animal while it's still alive. In Judaism, is the Mashiach considered a divine person or just a high example of what any human could be? Well, the Mashiach is one of the descendants of King David. He is a regular flesh and blood person, born of a woman, and that was married to a man. He's not there's no divine conception or nonsense that Christianity makes up. The Mashiach is a regular person. Once HaShem tells him he's Mashiach, he instills certain powers within him, to the point where the prophet says, it's in Jeremiah, it's in Isaiah, in several different places, where it says, V'ruach pivya mitrasha, that with his mouth, with the breath of his mouth, he'll be able to destroy the enemy. He won't need weapons. But before he is chosen as Mashiach, and is made aware of it, he's a regular person with regular abilities, as far as physical abilities. Now, certainly, in order for him to fit, to even be a possibility of being Mashiach, he has to be a righteous Jew, he has to learn a lot of Torah, he has to fit the formula, he has to be one of the descendants of King David, and so on. Can Jews eat halal? No. We can only eat kosher meat. The Muslims could eat kosher because our rules are more stringent than halal. But we're not allowed to eat halal. Is it okay to make fun of LGBTQ? For what purpose? Rabbi on the bed dean of my city disagrees with you on the ruling of a ger Katan, whether he should be asked or not. He said the boy doesn't need to be asked before his bar mitzvah. But right when he gets to bar mitzvah, I don't really understand. When he gets to bar mitzvah, it's a known thing. It's Shulchan Aruch. It's not about agree, disagree. They're asked if they want to be a Jew or not. For a no-hide, if a mosquito flies into your mouth and you swallow it accidentally, does that count as eating a living animal? No, bugs are not considered animals. Even if you eat the bugs intentionally, it's not eating a live animal. How do you protect a baby from Ayin Hara? That's a good question. First off, do not post pictures of the baby or any of your kids online. And quite frankly, it's better not to share them with anybody. If anybody wants to see your kids, they could see them in real life, or you could show them on your phone, but don't send it to other people, because then you don't have control of where they're going to share it or not. The second thing is don't talk too much about wonderful things about your kids. Just say, Baruch HaShem, everything's okay. Don't go into small details. Oh, yeah, today he showed us that he knows this or she knows this, and the more you talk about your kids to other people, the more Ayin Hara possibilities you're bringing on. Also, it's try not to bring so much attention to your kids. Don't make them the center of attention. The more they are the center of attention, the more Ayin Hara can come. Do Muslims and Jews serve the same God? According to most poskim, yes, but The Rogatchover Gaon says otherwise. Rogatchover Gaon paskins that the Muslims are idol worshippers. I mean, it's known that the Muslims were idol worshippers before Islam. That's where they came from. But he says that they're still idol worshippers. But most poskim, like the Rambam, for example, and the Abi Omer, say that they also pray to the same God as us. It's just that they are, unfortunately, misled to think that we are the enemy, and they are now they've replaced us. Are there particular prayers or things we can do for Hashem to help with career? Yeah, if the Chazal teach us that Maaser v'titasher, if a person takes at least 10% of their income and gives it to publicize Torah, whether it's Kiruv with an organization like ours, or donating to a Torah scholar that's serious Torah scholar, then if you do that over a period of time, you show seriousness, then certainly you'll bring blessings to your life. Second thing is simply doing Kiruv, helping other people do tshuva, sharing these lectures, sharing Torah books, sharing all the different things to get more people to learn Torah. Kiruv is one of the things that gives blessings in this world and the next. Most things that you do, most good deeds that you do, bring blessings just in Olam Haba. And whatever you get in this world, the Rambam says, is in essence, it's not really the reward for it, but rather it's Hashem enabling you to do more mitzvot. But for Kiruv, one of the things that the sages teach us is that it brings blessings both in this world and the next. Are women allowed to testify in court for themselves? If you mean in a bet din? No, they usually have a shliach, somebody to represent them. How do you know if you're from King David's descent? Well, Shem will tell the person if you're asking whether you're a Mashiach or not. Don't be delusional. Number one, and number two, if Hashem tells you you're a Mashiach through the prophet Eliyahu Navi, then that means you're from the descendants of David. Unless you have a family tradition that you already know. You're from the family of David. When should we consider Aliyah? It depends on your circumstance. I have a couple of lectures about it. I think one of them is called "Should All Jews Make Aliyah?" where I go into details. And I think another one that was made like a few weeks before it is "All Jews Must Make Aliyah," something like that. But in there, I really explain that it depends on three different factors. Number one, if you're going to be able to move to Israel and it's not going to cause shlom bayit problems, meaning if you want to go, but your spouse doesn't want to go, and if you go, they're going to divorce you, then don't go. That's enough of a reason not to go. But if they're okay with it, you have a check mark next to one. The second thing is if you're going to be grow spiritually as a result of it, meaning that your rabbi is, let's say, in Israel, or your chavruta is in Israel, or you're going to continue being able to learn Torah and be and grow closer to HaShem as a result of it, then you have a check mark. But if, let's say, for example, your rabbi lives in England, and he studies with you every day, and as a result of you making aliyah, you're not going to be able to study with him anymore, then that's a problem. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go, but it's certainly a problem you have to have an answer for. How are you going to replace it? And you can't just say, "Oh, I'll just figure it out." That's not a good thing. Same thing with education for kids. If, let's say, your kids are going to a good yeshiva right now, and you cannot get accepted into yeshiva in Israel, then certainly you cannot go. Why? Because you need to educate your kids. It's a Torah commandment for the parents to educate their kids. So you have to have answers for those things. The third question is parnasa. If you have a way to make a living where you are, and you're going to have also something if you move to Israel, then you have a check mark next to it. But if you have a way to make a living now where you are, but you're not going to have any way to make a living in Israel, and you're relying on people giving you tzedakah, or you're relying on people borrowing money and hoping for the best, or you're waiting for some miracle, then that's a problem. That's a problem. Why? Because, lack of money could lead to not just problems financially, it could lead to marriage problems, school problems, kids problems, could lead to a lot of problems. So if you have a check mark next to all three of those, where you know that you'll be able to make money, you'll be able to have shlom bayit, and you'll be able to get a Torah education for you and your kids, then certainly you want to make aliyah, go for it. Go for it. In fact, in the last, it's probably been the last week, there's been a few families that asked me about whether they should make aliyah. In some cases I told them no. In some cases I told them yes. Why? Depends on the circumstance. In a couple of circumstances, I told people they should make aliyah. If they want to, they should. But in a couple of cases, I told them, if you do it, you'll ruin your life. So there's no point of doing it. There was one woman, actually, that came to me years ago, asking me if she should make aliyah. And I asked her the questions. And she said no, that her husband and kids are going to stay in America. So I told her, no, don't move. Don't move to Israel. You have to stay with your husband and kids. She goes, no, my kids are grown up already, and my husband will come visit me. I said, no. A wife is supposed to live where her husband is, not the husband's going to visit his wife. She didn't listen. She moved to Israel, and you could already know that it wasn't a good ending. Let's just say that. It wasn't a good ending. The aliyah did not do good for her. Is the prophet Moses from a tribe? Yeah, he's from the Levi tribe. It says it in the Torah. Multiple times. How can I incorporate the spiritual wisdom of a Torah into my daily life while respecting the status as a non-Jew without overstepping the boundaries set by Noahide commandments? Watch as many of our Musar lectures, which is the majority of our lectures, and in those lectures I tell people how to apply these things to their life. Whether it's how to raise your kids, how to pray to HaShem, what to learn, how to conduct yourself. Watch the lectures. You'll see literally a bunch of things that will improve your life in a million ways. Aside from making you more righteous, it's just simply going to improve your life. What happens if the boy is not, the Ger Katan is not asked whether he's going to be Jewish or not? It doesn't invalidate their conversion. It doesn't invalidate the conversion. It's not something that will make somebody, if they're not asked, they're not Jewish anymore. In so many words, if the person is asked, it's not for the purpose of validating or not validating, but rather in order to confirm something. If the kid is already living a Jewish life, he goes to yeshiva, she goes to Jewish seminary, then the answer is already spoken for based on their actions. Based on their actions. When is the situation much more complicated? Is if the child and the family are not keeping Torah and Mitzvot. They're not keeping Torah and Mitzvot. The parents are not keeping Torah and Mitzvot. The kids not keeping Torah and Mitzvot. Then if you don't ask them, then it could create a problem because, if let's say they stopped keeping Mitzvot shortly after the conversion and the kid grew up not religious and now he's 13 years old, you cannot really be comfortable calling such a person a Jew, and very likely he's not Jewish. But if the person is is learning Jewish education, is following the Torah and Mitzvot, even if you don't ask them, he's still considered Jewish. It's just that it's a confirmation, a formality, if you will. It's not like the conversion where they dip in a mikveh or anything like that. And it's not even something that has to be done by Bedin. It can be done by Talmidei HaChamim, or the local rabbi, people that understand what they're doing. See. Where's the best place to get a business loan? Bank. Chabad is the only truth. Only truth to what? To what? What exactly? Truth? You mean the rest of the Jewish people are not valid according to your understanding? So, if you have to understand that the Jewish people come in different ways. There's Sephardi Jews, there's Ashkenazi Jews, Litvish, there's Yemenites, there's Ethiopians, there's Jews of all shapes and colors, there are all types of Chassidut. Now, the original Chabad is certainly they were righteous, they followed the Torah and so on, but for those of you that saw the clip that they made out of my lecture recently, I think it's called "What's the Problem with Chabad Today" or something like that, and a lot of people have called me about it and sent me messages about it. Over there, I actually specified that there is two different types of Chabad. There is the Chabad that is the old-timers that are following what the real Chabad teachings are, and then there's the crazies. The crazies of today, they look like the real Chabadniks, but they don't follow the real Chabad. Examples, they think that the Rebbe is Mashiach, even though he died already. Some of them even think he's God, even though it's idolatry. They say things that are antithetical to the Torah, like that everybody goes to heaven no matter what, even if they don't keep Torah and Mitzvot. They follow the teachings of people like Manis Friedman that says God needs you and God has an arm and all types of other foolish things. Now, those people, those Meshichistim, Elokistim, and heretics, they may call themselves Chabad, but they're not following Chabad. Now, up to now, these are things that you heard me say in the past. But what I'm going to show you now is one of the Vatikim of Chabad saying the same thing. We got a call just a few days ago, and this is what he says. So it's a little long, but you'll hear it directly from them. And you'll see that there's Chabad that actually love me, and they're my students, some of them, and those are the righteous Chabad. And then there's the crazies that we speak against, that do not help the Jewish people. They just help line their pockets. They're Meshiachistim. They literally, either deify the Rebbe or make it similar to Christianity and all types of other foolishness. Now again, these are my words. Now you're going to hear one of the Vatikim, meaning one of the elders of Chabad, saying the same exact thing. This is brand new. I haven't released this before. You're going to hear it for the first time right now.
The Roshas, what you're giving out, very important Roshas. And I spoke about specific about when you're talking about Chabad. I tried to explain in Chabad till after the Stalkis of the Rebbe was Nifter and Tuf Shirni and Dalet Gimel Tamas. Since then, there's no one actually who is the leadership responsible. Run by many people. Some of them are 100% good. Some people, I don't know. Not everybody, has the responsibility what they're doing. And when Yudrushis comes out sometimes that Chabad did that wrong or that wrong, it's supposed to be more saying that some people of Chabad, not a general name Chabad. Why? You on the phone now? You hear me? Hello?
Yes, I mean my daughter, so I put it on mute, but I'm listening.
Oh, but you listen. Oh, fine. Because I'm explaining many thousands of people, Baal Tshuva, the whole Yiddishkeit is not going what Chabad tells them. Now, when you will tell Chabad, they get afraid, they're going backwards. So you have to explain them, they have to we're in Chabad. You have to explain that in Chabad is a big variety, all type of people, all type of mashpiyim. We can't put like a stamp of Chabad. Like you can't say on Am Yisrael, a certain stamp. Some are like this, some are like that. My English is not bad. You understand? Is a little bad. You understand my point? What I'm trying to bring out?
Yeah.
Because it's very important. Your words are very nice saying. Whoever talks there, but have to be explained. It's not Chabad. This is some people of Chabad. Let's say Mames Friedman. He's not official, he's no Stelle, he's not nothing in Chabad, he's not a Mashpia there, he's not a Makachir, he's not a Dayan. He's an individual, and he talks on YouTube, and he tells the people, he's saying what Chabad says. Actually, all his controversial things, is Sifri Chabad says opposite what he's saying. It's true. So we can't feel reliable whole Chabad for that. So it has to be Zari Chachom and B'divrei, like the Mishnah says, to spell out that in Chabad is all types, some people of Chabad. They have to be careful. You right with that. You understand me? You understand me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Let's say one example. I don't know if you know. No, you don't know. 23 years ago, a little more maybe, came out a big called Torah in Chabad of the most highest people, some of them don't live anymore. They came out against the Meshiachisten. A big called Torah. You ever saw it? In Asiba today, most people don't know even about it. And they think whole Chabad are Meshiachisten. Because always in every community who makes noise, from them they hear. The normal people, they don't talk about it. If you want, I can send you even just so you should see it. Maybe they can put it out even today. Then was published. That's called Torah. If I want to send it to you, I should send it to be'ezrathashem.org.
Yes, you can send it also to there. Yes.
www.custom.org. Huh?
Yes, the email. Do you see an email there?
I see on your face it says www.be'ezrathashem.org. So what's that?
That's the website.
What's that? Website?
Yes, that's the website.
So how to send it? Like an email or like something like?
You want to send it by WhatsApp, so I'll send it to them straight.
Okay, so you see the point. I mean, it goes on for another few minutes, but you get the point. My point is that the Vatikim of Chabad, he said himself, you heard, an old-timer Chabadnik saying he likes the way I talk. And later on he says he agrees with everything I say, but he always says to make sure that people know that there's a difference. There's a difference between the real Chabad and the Meshichistim, the problematic people, the people that are not following the Torah. He also mentions Manis Friedman. And he says all the controversial stuff that Manis Friedman says is against Chabad. It's not teaching of Chabad. It's not teaching of Chabad. And another thing that he said is that there was a Kol Koreh, which means it's a major write-up and announcement over 20 years ago that they issued, meaning the leaders of Chabad issued, against the Meshichistim. And he sent it to us. I have it in Hebrew. I'm actually having it, our team, translated to English. And they go against the Meshichistim, much harder than we did. But unfortunately, the Meshichistim are so loud and obnoxious that most people don't even know that the real Chabad is against them. And it's not just Yaron Reuven. It's the real Chabadniks are against the fake Chabad. And so is the rest of the Jewish people. But a lot of people don't know the difference. And the fact that I'm one of the few remaining voices out there that speaks against them is actually beloved by the real Chabadniks. The only people that don't like it are people that are part of the problem. So, here you saw, I could not prepare for such a thing. You made a comment, you got a response. Not from me only. You got it from the real Chabad. From the real Chabad. Maybe when we post this, I'll put the entire recording or just this part. The point is, you got the point. We'll, B'ezrat Hashem, finish translating the Kol Koreh. I'm sure that there's ways that some of you can get it on your own, but we're working on translating it so everybody can understand it. And everybody can understand that when Rav Aaron Feldman wrote a letter saying that you cannot count these Meshichistim in a minyan, or these Elokistim in a minyan, it's two different sets of problems. He didn't say it because he's not Chabad. He said it because what they're doing is against the Torah. It has nothing to do with Chabad. It's against the Torah. And the real Chabad agrees with it. It's just that they're not as loud and they're not as, certainly not obnoxious. They're Talmidei Chachamim, righteous people, decent people. And they are not as they're not as well known as the loudmouths and the heretics. So here you got the real answers from the real Chabad, live, without preparation, and it was pure siyata dishmaya that we got this call this week. And Baruch Hashem, now you guys, I didn't know how to publicize this or not, and here you go, it happened. So now you know what is the truth and what's falsehood. I like the Chabad website. They have so many insights on Torah, lectures, books, and the Rebbe who said to his followers to spread Noahide laws. I just listened from the Rabbi that they don't support. They certainly did. The Chabad website, the main one, has a lot of resources on there. Most of what I've seen there is very good. There are some articles by modern day Meshichistim and that go in there also that are problematic. But if you're talking about the resources, such as the fact that they have the Rambam on there, or they have letters from the Rebbe that are real letters from the Rebbe, especially the Hebrew versions, because the translations, as we found out recently, are not always correct the Tanya, all of the old books, that's very good. That is great. I've used it also. But if you're talking about some of the modern day write-ups, that I cannot vouch for across the board because it's not so simple. Some of the stuff is good, but some of it is absolutely heretical. So it depends. Did Chanoch, or as you're calling him, Enoch, die, or was he taken up to heaven? He didn't die. HaShem took him and he turned into an angel called Memtet. Are there Cuban Jews? Yes, of course. There's Jews of all shapes and sizes. Since the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, Jews have been in the exile, which means they've gone to different parts of the world. Rabbi, I'm single and pretend to convert to Judaism. Should I wait to be married if I marry before the marriage is valid? Okay, if I'm reading what you're saying correctly, if the person that you want to marry is Jewish and you have not converted, then you're not allowed to marry them. You have to convert first and then marry a Jew. If you marry them while you're not Jewish, before you converted, then the marriage is not valid, according to the Torah. And in fact, you're making a very, very big sin, and you're making them make a very big sin. When our parents say we're not honoring them because we rebuke them on idolatry, how should I act on this case? I mean, if your parents are idol worshippers, rebuking them is a necessity, but you have to do it in a certain way that still shows respect, meaning you can't yell at them, insult them, you can't mock them. You have to educate them, meaning you have to share lectures with them, books with them, show them information, but always speak with care, concern, and patience. If you cannot carry yourself that way, then it's better off you don't say anything, because you're not going to inspire them to change by mocking them. Just wanted to tell you that my Sephardic shul gave me a laminated prayer for the bathroom that was made by you. Very nice. Oh, Baruch HaShem, that's the Shayatzal. The Rabbi is very good. Baruch HaShem. Anybody who's used it likes it. Baruch HaShem. Are there Native American Jews? Is it possible? Yes, but I doubt it, because Native Americans have a form of idolatry. So I mean, could there be a Jew that lived among Native Americans? Certainly. There is in the early founding of America, the country was full of American Indians. And many Jews that came from Europe to America would do business, would do trades with them. They would trade, wool, fur, all types of different things with them. And some of them ended up living next to them for business purposes. So if, and certainly there's certain exchanges, certain friendships, and so on. But can you be a righteous Jew and also a native Indian, meaning following their culture? No. Can it be somebody that lives among native Indians? Certainly. Throughout history, certainly. what's the Torah view on doing things as sgulot? Depends. If it's a real sgula, then it has a tradition. If it's not, then it's just simply wasting your money and time. How did Reuven marry Dinah? I don't understand. I believe it was Shimon that married Dinah, not Reuven. And if you're asking about how I guess, according to the modern day definition, someone that has same father but different mother, how could they marry? Today they're not allowed to marry because we already got the Torah, but before the Torah was given, this was allowed. Meaning before the written Torah, Mount Sinai was given, this was allowed. That's the reason why Yaakov was able to marry two sisters. That's why each one of the tribes was born with twin sisters. So they were able to marry. But after we got the Torah, Mount Sinai, things changed. Okay. Yeah, it's Shimon. Yeah, Shimon, not Reuven. Is it under the no-had prohibitions? No, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. Same mother. Can Jews have many wives? According to the Torah, yes, but according to the way people live today, it's not done. Ashkenazi Jews already forbid it nearly 1,000 years ago. Rabbeinu Gershon made a takana that Ashkenazi Jews are not allowed to marry multiple wives. He learned this on his own suffering led to this. His second wife ended up being jealous and put him in prison and nearly killed him. So after that, there was a takana that no more multiple wives for Ashkenazi Jews. It's over 1,000 years old, and the Sephardi Jews never accepted this takana. So until recent history, some Yemenite, Moroccan Jews married multiple wives. Today, meaning in the last 40, 50 years, it's not so common. It's not common at all, I should say. Certainly not in Jews that are living in Israel or in the West, in America or England or anything like that. Yeah, there may be some Jews in Morocco or in Yemen that still live there that may be married to multiple wives because the Torah allows it. There's certain rules, obviously, but how to have such a marriage. But according to the Torah, it's allowed to have multiple wives. Not allowed to have multiple husbands, obviously, but multiple wives a Jew is allowed to have. But it has to have the permission of the wife. You can't just marry whoever you want whenever you want. It's not like the Muslims where they could just do whatever they want, however they want. No, there's certain rules. Rivka was 3 years old when Yitzchak married her, according to the Gemara in Yevamot. Yes, she was. But you can see from what the Torah explains is that she was 3 years old in age, but not 3 years old in size like, the world today. Your 3-year-old daughter or 3-year-old son are probably, 2 feet, 3 feet tall, tiny little things. And if you ask them to go water a camel, one camel, they're not going to be able to even lift the bucket because it's so heavy for them. But Rivka shows obviously she was much bigger and stronger than even adults that are alive today, because she went and she gave water to all of the camels and all of the servants of Eliezer. We're talking about 10 camels, servants. We're talking about buckets after buckets. In fact, in a book by Rabbi Deutsch, he writes that if you actually do the calculation based on how much a camel actually drinks, it certainly is much more than a bucket. Certainly much more than a bucket. We're talking about several buckets, huge amount of water, meaning that for somebody to do what Rivka did at 3 years old, in today's world, you not only have to be a grown-up, a full adult, you actually have to be one of the strongest people in the world. That's how difficult it was. So obviously, she was not the same size and image as what a 3-year-old today looks like. And neither were many of the people that are mentioned in the Tanakh. For example, King David. Who doesn't love King David? Who doesn't love King David? Everybody loves King David, right? Mashiach comes from King David. Guess what? Which wives? King David had 18 wives. Which wife is the Mashiach coming from? Bathsheba. She had Shlomo. Shlomo is their son. And from Shlomo comes the Mashiach. At what age did King David marry Bathsheba? 7 years old. Now again, if you look at a 7-year-old in today's world, you would say, pedophilia, terrible, but obviously, in those days, number one, things were different. Not just the culture was different. The physicality of people was different. Because she was, number one, already previously married, before she got divorced and married King David. And secondly, you see that she was able to bear a child. A 7-year-old today can't. So, if you analyze things based on only the information you know from what you see today, you will arrive at the wrong conclusion about everything. Therefore, anyone that is a scholar, or at least someone that is trying to learn properly, always looks at not just based on the world of knowledge they have based on today, they look at the circumstances that were at the time that they're analyzing. So, for example, if you look at the laws of the fact that slavery, for example, today, if you mention slavery in America or in most of the Western countries, people will look at it in a very negative way. Oh, slavery is terrible, based on people's understanding of what happened to the black people and how they were abused by the Americans and so on and so forth. Now, what you don't realize is that before this recent revolution that took place here in America, slavery was acceptable worldwide for all of history. It was an acceptable behavior, it was an acceptable, according to everybody, not just the Americans, not just the Jews, not just the Arabs, not just the Chinese, everyone. Everywhere in the world that you go, there were slaves. It was a normal part of life. Now, of course, the treatment and the rules for slavery, according to the Torah, are very, very different than than the people's rules. We're not allowed to beat up the slaves and poke their eyes out and rape them and do all the things that the Americans did to the black poor people. Obviously, this is horrible what they did to them. But the point is that slavery in itself was an acceptable thing throughout all of history, much more than the recent history of where it's become unacceptable. And even in today's world where slavery is unacceptable, it still happens. How does it still happen? Simple. look at all of the very wealthy people, the people that are billionaires, multimillionaires, royalty, oligarchs, all of these ruling people, what do you think all those people are? You think that they're employees? Yes, they give them food to eat and so on. They give them a place to stay, but they don't have the freedom like a regular employee that goes to work for the postal office has. They're today's modern day slaves. If one of the servants of, let's say, Putin or even Donald Trump or any of the Saudi Arabian kings and royalty over there, any one of them, let's say, decides to just curse their boss, curse their leader, you think that person will live 24 hours? No, they'll instantly be killed. Yeah, but there's no slavery anymore. In your mind there isn't, but there is. Now again, this is something that still exists today. In fact, in places in America, there are different communities in America that are usually by Muslim communities that still have slaves. There are some Asian communities that have slaves. They bring them from different countries. They buy people. You could, if you go on somebody that wants to do it, you can buy somebody from Thailand for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and they'll be your slave for the rest of your life. Yeah, you'll have to feed them and stuff, but you always had to. So slavery still exists. It's just a little bit different than what it was. So if you base your knowledge on what you see in social media and in politics and in television and in the lefty liberal world that we live in, then you're going to simply say, no, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's inhumane, and all types of things. But in reality, it's been very much part of society since the beginning. And there are rules that the Torah has about slavery, and that are certainly much more favorable than man-made rules. But the point is that this is a world that you cannot judge things based on just what you know or what you heard. You have to look at the circumstance. When you are looking at 3-year-old that's mentioned in the Torah, someone that lived thousands of years ago, you cannot look at things from your perspective of today. You have to look at how is the rest of the information describe this person. Do they describe them as a toddler that still has puts their finger in their mouth and wears a diaper and plays on a slide before they go to bed at 8 o'clock at night? Or are they describing someone that is more like a full-grown woman, and in fact, a very, very powerful full-grown woman that is able to give buckets and buckets, literally thousands of liters of water to camels? How about this? You go to any place that has camels, Middle East has plenty of them, and tell the guy, listen, I want to give your camel some water. I want to give your camel some water. After they laugh at you, they'll tell you, thank you, we'll see you later tonight. Why? Because it's a whole process. It's a whole process, and guess what? Don't be surprised if your arms are so sore after a half hour that you simply give up on completing the task. And that's just with one camel. Now when I say go give them water like Rivka gave them. Go to the well, fill up the bucket with water, bring it back to the camel, see him finish it, go get another bucket. Go, let's see, how many buckets can you bring in let's see if you could satiate one camel. Rivka did 10 camels, and the servants, and Eliezer. So, obviously, this is not the normal 3-year-old person. You have to learn how to learn and not just conclude based on a bias or based on ignorance. Because either way, you will arrive at a wrong conclusion. You want the truth or you want some manipulated way to make the Torah and the Jewish people look bad. If you want to make us look bad, you don't need to ask questions. You could just hate us for no reason. None of the previous anti-Semites ever needed a valid reason to hate us. But if you're actually looking for the truth, at least do some homework before you conclude things. I'm not Jewish, can I be here? Sure, why not? Want to learn? Learn. If my parents say that the way I talk about God looks like HaShem is bad and very severe, they don't have the knowledge around punishment and how it works. And they think that God is always merciful with wicked people. Well, it's not the way you talk. You have to show them how God says it about himself, that he punishes the wicked. After the flood, the 3 sons of Noah have sons. They married their own sisters or they married their cousins. They could have married either one. Could have married their sisters or could have married their cousins. Obviously, Adam HaRishon had, his sons, and those, Cain and Abel. Okay, they married. They were born with twins, and they married their twins. They married their twins. That's one of the reasons why Cain killed Abel, is because Abel was born with 2 women twins, 2 female twins, and he married both of them. And Cain was born with 1 single twin woman, and he was jealous that he had 2 and he had 1, so he killed him. Like I said, in order to populate the world, obviously we were allowed. At the time of Yaakov Avinu, the Torah says that it came down with only 70 nefashot, and it only mentions the men, with the exception of a couple of women. So all of them had wives, and the sages teach us that each one of the tribes was born with a twin sister. I heard that a terrorist ran his car into 770 headquarters tonight. Chas v'shalom. Hopefully you're wrong. Hopefully nobody got hurt except the terrorist, if it happened. Thank you, Ram, for the awesome daily halacha WhatsApp group. Oh yeah, it's very popular, Baruch Hashem. It's very popular. A lot of people like it. Anyone that's not familiar with our daily halacha WhatsApp group, you're missing out, because every single day there's a couple of posts with an halacha and a picture to explain it. It's, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people love it. A lot of people love it. So if you are not familiar with it, you could send a message. We'll send you the link. Okay, Rabotai. Baruch Hashem, we've gone on for about 2.5 hours. We've answered all the questions. We've addressed all the issues. I think, let me see if there's anything else. Where am I from? If you mean where I was born in Israel. If you mean where I live now, I live in Florida, in the United States. Is there any significance in boy-girl twins today? 2 for 1. 1 pregnancy, 2 babies. Maybe easier, maybe more difficult, depends. Depends how they were conceived, how they're raised. As far as if there's Kabbalistic meanings and so on, sure, there's meanings to everything. Perhaps one day we'll do a shiur about it. Okay, Rabotai, thank you very much for learning with me. Anyone that wants to support can go to our website, bhtorah.org or bezrathashem.org. Also, you could get some of these car magnets and USBs and our books to distribute in your community on the website kiruvstore.org. Kiruv Store, KIRUVSTORE.org. If you're located in the U.S., we'll ship it to you. If you're located outside of the U.S., then we ask for you to pay for the shipping. It's expensive. If you're not willing to pay for it, then we're sorry, we're not going to be able to send it to you. I know that a few of you wanted packages to different parts of the world, and but we're not willing to or able to pay for it. There's just so much cost that we could absorb, and it's expensive. It's expensive. It's it is what it is. But those of you that are in the United States, take advantage of it. There's a lot of good books, a lot of good stuff that you could bring chizuk to your community. And certainly those of you that want to help us and to continue spreading the shiurim in more languages. We have now almost 20 different languages or 16 different languages. We have the AI Rabbi. We have a few different things that we're working on. Lots of good stuff going on. Anyone that wants to be partners with us in the books, in the applications, and different things, you could donate on the website. And HaShem, be a partner. Because I can tell you one thing for sure. No one has ever invested significantly in our organization and regretted it. Everyone has benefited in a big way in this world, not just the next world, in this world. And Baruch Hashem for that. Thank you very much for learning, and B'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn again next week. Shalom v'cha Rabotai, we're finally here. The new Kiruv box. Opens up, got a nice little cushion here. We got let's see if it's charged. Isn't that amazing? Just a box in your life. Now available at bezrathashem.org. bezrathashem.org. Get yourself 20 of them, 30 of them, 50 of them. Distribute them to all the people that you care about. And you get people to do TeShuva.